Hello and welcome. You're viewing the Citizens Journalist podcast, Mesa County Compass, that brings you the news that you can use from a different point of view. I'm Ruth.
I'm Lisa.
And together we are Mesa County Compass. Our goal is to create an informed, current, active citizenry armed with the facts. We will be covering what's new to you, what it means to you, what you can do about it, and provide you access to the decision makers when we can. Just for your information, on this Mesa County Compass podcast, we do have some interesting literature that we've posted in front of everything before we started this podcast. Please look it over carefully.
Mm-hmm. Some of them could be flyers or campaign contributions from different sources. Also looking at in the past where big contributions have come from the outside. So make sure we've given you like 10 seconds to look at each one, and please comment on this particular podcast. We'd love to hear what you think and what you have to say and how you select your school board members.
Yes, please. By all means, do say something to us, whether it is a personal message on Facebook Messenger, whether you comment on Facebook itself, whether you comment on YouTube. Please say something. Thank you.
Thank you. Oops.
Welcome to Mesa County Compass. This afternoon we're doing an interview, kind of an off-the-street interview, if you will. We're having Beau Flores, who is currently the new vice chair of the Republican Party. And he has some other titles, so I'll let him go ahead and introduce himself that way. We also have Charlie Talbott, who is a partner in Talbott Farms, and he also has some other things that he has going too, so I'll let him introduce himself too. Anyway, we'll start with you, Beau. Give us a little bit of your background and how you got to this point.
Yeah, so like I do wear a lot of hats, and sometimes they contradict. It's kind of funny, but I am the first vice chair of the Republican Party here, and I also own my own business. It's a political consulting firm called Monarch Solutions. Anybody need help on that? I'm there. Yep. And I'm also the vice president of Western Colorado Affairs for the 76 Group. It's a firm that's in Denver, and we do a lot of public policy, healthcare, oil and gas, kind of representing those kind of clients. So.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
That's how I got my stick.
That's
Yeah.
that's it. Okay,
And
Charlie.
you've been, I'm sorry, and you've been in Junction for how long again?
Yeah, so I went to school at CMU in 2011. Pretty much, I went home for a couple years, but since then I've been in Grand Junction. I traveled a lot, so about 12 years, 13 years. So
Excellent.
Nice.
yeah.
Now then, we'll have
Yeah.
Charlie.
All right. Well, in a nutshell, my great grandfather moved into the valley in 1907.
Wow.
Started raising peaches in the Palisade area. My grandfather, the Talbots came out of Kentucky. The Yeagers came out of Iowa, but they came out of Kentucky in about 1917. My grandfather married a peach grower's granddaughter and daughter, and
Nice.
started the company Talbott Farms that we run today. And so today, 2 of my 3 brothers and I are the current ownership and management primarily, and we've got some of the next generation that are now coming in, and we're expanding some of what we do to include room for them.
Very good. Very nice. All right. Well, just as a kind of a front runner to this, we invited both of these guys to come be on because Beau is a little bit active in this particular deal of the school board race that we're having. And Charlie said that he doesn't get on social media, and so we're trying to figure out how he gets his information and what he's heard and what he thinks.
So, Charlie, we've shown you some articles and stuff about how much money goes into these races now. How important do you think the school board race is, and what do you think about it? Because the school board race said we are nonpartisan. That means there's no Republican or Democratic label put on them. But do you think you're going to spend this much money in a non-political way?
It seems to me highly suspicious that amount of money would go into something like a school board race. And I think too, when you ask about the importance of it, I've read, it was a couple of elections ago, and one of the commentators was suggesting we care far less about national politics and far more about local. And when we look at the school boards, and we look at the training of our youth, knowing that they are going to be future leaders, future wage earners, the future of our country, it's critically important. And I think too, when we see, and as we came out of the COVID years, and a lot of parents saw what was going on in the remote classrooms, looking over the shoulder of their children, they were mortified. And I think we do have a battleground for the hearts and minds of our youth that's going on right now. So I would say it's very important.
What about you, Beau? Why do you think it's become so important and so politicized and so much money? We were looking at 2023, and they were saying candidates had raised $2.2 million for this race.
Especially at the fact that the school board makes no money from this whatsoever. The people who are individuals that actually sit on the board don't get anything from this.
And they get to spend lots of time working on it.
Yeah.
Lots of time.
And so I think it is the trend or the norm for these campaigns to start to be so political. You know, we're in a climate right now where it is far right, far left. It is very exaggerated. It's dangerous even. We've seen that as well. That this emotion behind this whole political kind of understanding is growing. So I think it's only natural that it does bleed into other elections. You know, I always think of it doing like a federal campaign versus a city council is everyone has that federal attitude and hype and vibe, and they apply that to every single kind of election that a voter wants to be a part of. So to me, I think it was only a matter of time, especially how political our climate is there. It's very loud right now. They're constantly, oh, Trump this, or Biden this. Like, it's just so that just trickles down to a smaller election. It really is, to me, the same hype applied to a smaller race. So I think it was only a matter of time, and unfortunately, it's exaggerated hype, I think. But I really do personally think that it was going to happen either way.
That's interesting. So if one of my questions would be, is we're looking at the school board candidates that are currently on the board, and in their things that they put out, they talk about soaring academic scores, that we're not behind in any levels that we were prior to them coming on. They talk about now that they're fiscally sound, and they talk about we have record graduation rates, and it seems that the other side is saying, no, that didn't happen under your watch. So how and why do you think this great big brouhaha came about with the other candidates all of a sudden saying, because I saw him at the forum, I know you weren't there, Charlie, but I went to the Stand for the Constitution forum, Ruth and I both, she was the moderator, and they asked all of the opposing candidates, what do you think about these different issues? And on every issue, it was, yes, we support that. Yes, we support that. Yep,
For
that
all
happened.
6 of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was no controversy at all. So I guess the question to me comes, why do you want to go out and knock hundreds and thousands of doors and try to get these 3 unseated? If they've done a good job, what's in it for you? Does that influence anybody else, or is it just me that says, why are you running if you think they're doing fine and you don't disagree with anything they're doing? Does that influence you at all, Charlie, or how do you look at it?
Yeah, in fact, I listened to your podcast with Willie and Casey and thought that the dialogue was thoughtful and there was much alignment in both motives and understanding of, tough choices need to be made. We have limited funds, we have limited resources, we have a declining student population. This takes thoughtful, rational people having reasonable conversations to see this, and I think Beau hit on it. There is such a bifurcation, there is such a incompatible worldview between two sides that has emerged in really the last decade more than I think I've ever seen it. And so, some of that question with what we saw and see going on in the schools with pronouns, with women and boys and girls sports, I would think a lot of money likely is being thrown at these races in expectation of an outcome that fits one side of that equation, that fits the expectations of those who want a much more open, liberal environment. And it's astounding to me because I see doubling and tripling down on 80-20 issues or 90-10 issues where most any reasonable, thoughtful adult is going to say, no, I'm for this. I don't want this to happen. This is wrong. And yet, like I say, in our schools, in our universities, that is the point, the place where young minds are cultivated. And I think they know that, both sides know that, and both sides understand that we must prevail in this or be lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to go off of, because I was there as well at that forum, and one thing you have to, and this is not political, I think it's just, this is how I think. So when you have a forum where you have 6 candidates all saying, yeah, I don't want to change my answer, I agree, whatever, then it draws you to think, right? And I think Will did this excellent at the end in his closing remark. He was like, you usually run because you want to make a change, but if you're agreeing with everything we're doing, then why, right? Mm-hmm. And that's key. I want people to understand that if you have 6 candidates against each other, and they're all saying like, yep, I agree, agreeing with what the current board is doing, then what is the reason? And I'm telling you, well, I'll tell you what it is, and it has to do with union, right? Involvement. That's the reason why, the number one reason why that we're having opponents against what people can say a board that did a good job. And I liked what you mentioned is that the board was given what they were given and they had to do what was given to them. Like they did it accordingly. You see that there, you're going to hear that a lot, right? I mean, you've been hearing it throughout the race. The union thing is they believe that the negotiation wasn't heard, right, between the union and the board, and that is, by essence, the only reason why we have 3 board members who are running for re-election have opponents. That we
It's
saw
all
it.
union based.
It is, and you saw it that night, and we see it in other forums. The answers are 99% the same across the board. So it has to make you think. Then what is it? And to me, it's clear as day what it is, and I don't think it's talked enough about. I think they're trying to make it as quiet as possible. And not bringing up that issue. But I think we should be honest with the voters and be like, look, if the negotiation is the biggest issue, the union didn't feel heard, or they think the board is a stone wall and not listening, then let's talk about that.
So Charlie, do you think that that is the only reason that the union is just over negotiations like Beau's saying, or do you think that it's deeper than that? And if so, why do you think it's deeper than that?
I do think it's deeper than that. I think the power, the control, the ability to influence an outcome for an agenda that your side uniquely holds and holds strongly is, even if it's unspoken, I think it's pervasive.
Okay, I kind of agree with that. I mean, I definitely, there's no kind of agree with that as well. And one of my things, and I'm going to let Ruth talk in a second, because I tend to take over.
No, that's fine. You're doing great. No argument.
One of the arguments that I have against the CEA being involved as heavily as it is the amount of money that it offers a candidate. And I know that there's nothing, the MVEA, from my understanding, picks the candidates that they want to back. And then once they've backed them, the CEA, Colorado Education Association, vets them, and they say if they vet them and they want to make sure that they go along with their values and their agenda. And one of the things that, you know, is just right there in their agenda, and it's a legislative agenda. They say this is what we want. We want to protect public education. And it says our state is uniquely positioned to support public education as a cornerstone of democracy, and we must use action now before it's too late. State lawmakers must, so we're going to push them too, support state action to protect public school staff and students, particularly those that are the most vulnerable, and especially those under threat of deportation from attacks by the federal government. And I'm like, wait a minute, what does that have to do with academic success, local control, how our budgets are being spent, how much money we're getting to come out? That's definitely a political way of looking at things that is in disagreement with the community. I mean, just because you say that, that's your value, but your candidate needs to follow along with that agenda. And so that's one of the reasons that I question when you see Indivisible supporting those candidates and you see No Kings supporting those candidates, then you come back and say, oh, but it's not political. It's just what's best for the kids. And just
And
my
the kids
opinion.
don't seem to have any involvement. I mean, we're not paying attention to the kids at all on this. We're paying attention to what the union is telling us we need to pay attention to, which is definitely not the kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Charlie, in coming up, we have 2 of these postcards, and you got both of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what did you think when you saw both of them? How did that impact you? What did you think? Maybe we should.
Well, particularly, you want to read what they say?
Sure.
We can't trust the incumbents, Andrea, Angela, and Willie, with our schools. Administrative spending increased by over $12 million, a more than 20% increase. Money not going into the classrooms and schools and the schools falling into disrepair or closing due to a lack of funding, focusing on partisan politics and not kids' education. And I find that very ironic because this flyer is focusing on politics, where we see the the flyer that comes from the incumbents, Andrea, Angela, and Will, they're speaking of their track record, soaring academic scores, record high graduation rates, careful budgeting that cuts waste and saves money, higher teacher pay and lower turnover, parents included as true partners in their children's education. There's no criticism of a candidate or an opposing candidate in this. This is saying, here's what we're doing. We are willing to be transparent. We're willing to be open. We're willing to let our record speak for itself. The other sows seeds of distrust and throws accusations out that in the debate you won't hear. No, we largely agree. Yes, we see that you have tough fiscal responsibilities and fiduciary responsibilities and decisions that you have to make. So one, I think, is far more, I'm not going to say that, let me think how to articulate this. One is just fear-mongering without really substantive, thoughtful discord.
Okay.
The other, I think, is far more defensible. And to your point, it's what do we want for our children? What do I want as a businessman in the community? I want competent, capable people to come into the industry, to come into positions of authority and responsibility, and to be critical thinkers. I don't want them to have been taught what to think, particularly by a government agency or a government institution, as our schools are. That should far more come from the home and from parenting. And I like that, in the past dozen years, we've really heard this, parents coming into boardrooms and parents challenging the school districts and school boards saying, no, this is not okay. We're not okay with your exposing our kids to this, teaching our kids this, teaching them that our country is, we talk about protecting democracy. What does that mean? We know King says our democracy, that's so disingenuous that our democracy is at risk. We don't have a democracy, for one. It's a democratic republic, and it's very thoughtfully and wisely constructed. Again, it's unsubstantiated fear-mongering that I see, and I immediately distrust that. I'd far rather hear thoughtful discourse.
Okay. Now, Beau, you said, as a political consultant, you kind of like this, think it's effective. Why? And how do you think that impacts a voter? Do you think most voters analyze this at all?
Do you think it's all emotional?
So one thing we're taught, but one thing that's a tool is mailers. I think mailers are a must in any campaign. But I do like getting these personally because, as what was mentioned, is I like to pick apart, like I mentioned to someone before, was that this whole $12 million spending of increase, and I'm like, where'd you get that? I like to dive into what's given, especially when you see it as such a opposing piece of literature. Mm-hmm. I love to fact check, both sides really, but to me it helps me understand more of what is going on, and I look into that, and then I can say, well, that's not even true. Like how I think it's wild how someone can say that and think and try to convert a voter through a lie, and then that helps me vote. That helps whoever chooses me to help them vote. It definitely shows. I love these kind of pieces. I think they're funny most of the time, but it really does. And for anyone who gets these, I always, even the ones you get like this, I use it as, okay, I'm gonna go fact check, and then from there on both sides, I like to depict how I'm gonna portray them, these candidates, to people, and that's what I like. Even like when you see academic scores, right? No, you'll find that Mesa County is one of the top, and that's huge. And then you say, and then this goes, $12 million spending, a 20% increase, and then I call the source, the board, directly, and they're like, and then they give me a professional's number who is in the like the treasurer or the CFO, whatever that is, and then they go, that is just false, and they explain it to me. This should push someone to do homework. Personally, that's what it is. You should never look at it and be like, got it, voting.
Yep, yep.
Right.
But if we're using that, and this group I thought was pretty interesting, our kids deserve better. Is that what it is?
On the other side,
Now, students deserve better.
Students deserve better.
That organization, and it's outside, it's an outside fund, comes out of Denver, and they've been involved in a number of school board races, 2021, 2023, and we have in here, and we'll be putting it on the podcast, where they gave $286,000 in a check, and you can find it on Tracer, to the CEA, who then distributes it and used it to pay for this particular mailing. The CEA used it to pay for that. So that also seems to be a little bit suspect, but not, it's suspect, not a little bit. But when you do something like this, obviously as a political consultant, who is that reaching and how effective is that? Because how many people go, oh, I don't know if I believe that or not.
in the field I'm in, yes, and if you notice who gets them, right? That's also key, because when you're in this world of mailers and even door knocking or anything, you create what we call a universe, right? Of who to hit, who to target, and I know because I got one, which is funny. But I know a lot of people who got them, who align the way that I align, and you think, what's the strategy behind that? It's to deter the certain group of voters, right? We, as conservatives, like the conservative candidates.
Yep.
Easy.
Yeah, they just have to know who the conservative candidates are.
Yes. And what this does, it's sent to conservatives to kind of be like, hey, like there's more that you need to know. Like I think they did a blanket send. I do.
They did.
And so I'm not saying that they targeted conservatives, but to do that, one, it costs a lot of money to
That's
do
what I
a
was gonna
blanket,
ask.
like to do a whole county-wide, ungodly amount of money.
Give us an idea.
I would say, I know because we recently did this in the prior race, not this one, but to get 20,000 voters, it ranges between 10 to 15,000. Now, in an election that we know of school board from the past election is around 50,000. So that times that by whatever, like you're spending almost 50,000 to send, and that kind of money in a school board, just on mailers alone, not media, not any kind of outreach canvassing, grassroots, just this. Oh man, it makes you think. It makes you think, where is that? How is that money spent? Where is it coming from?
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, right?
And who are you trying to influence?
And who are you trying to influence? Yes.
And what does
Why?
the candidate that receives that money, what is the expectation for that candidate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've got these mailers, and you think that's a must for candidates.
I do.
How many people, how many households are there in Mesa County that will be voting? How many voters do you say you could have? I know we don't get very good turnouts, but how many are the potential number?
I would say around 50,000 voters.
In different households?
Will turn out on an off term.
And that's so we can only go based off of what we've known prior, right? And the last school board election was a very big one, right? It was during COVID, and we're opening our schools, and this board ran off of keeping our school open, so people were engaged. And so you can also reflect it on other races that happened at the time, but I would say I don't think we'll lose 10,000 votes. I think this is active enough where we'll see around, I would say 45 to 50
45 to 50,000?
That'll be interesting.
Oh, yeah. I
That's-
don't
We've
think
never
they
had
get
that
that
kind
much
of a
for city
turnout.
council or
That
anything.
well, that's what it was. Oh my gosh! Wait, hold on. I might be thinking of a different race. I'm in a lot of races.
Yes,
I would say closer to 30.
okay.
Yeah.
But that's still,
That's still,
a
yeah.
huge number
Mm-hmm.
for us in this county. Yeah.
Does a flyer like this cause that voter who might not vote in an off-season, off-cycle election to be more inclined to vote?
Yeah, I would think it would, or it might actually push people away. But I think as a voter who is not very active, and let's say this is the only piece they kind of get. Yeah, I think because again we're in this political climate where it's so messy, and you see something like this, it's kind of like normal, right? It's definitely not something where you second guess it. Like so, I think this does affect a non-active voter.
And how many voters would you say in the county are active voters versus non-active? Because I can tell you for a fact, 10 years ago, I don't know about you, Charlie, I couldn't have told you who was running, and nor did I care. Just
In a
good
school
that
board
they're
election?
good
No.
that they're running, and I don't have to. That would be what I would have thought. Thank you
fair.
for doing that. Yes, it's like a PTA thing. I don't have to do.
In fact, I really didn't get involved until I started talking about putting money into a bond issue. And that's when I started getting involved with the school board and that, which was several years ago. So,
How active have you been in school board as far as knowing the candidates, caring about them, doing any research?
Really until kind of the COVID years, not frankly, with apologies, not very.
No, me too. We were back there going, yay, somebody ran. Yes, yes.
Well, and I think what we see going on in the schools with the woke, if for lack of a better term, agenda has just, I think it's really galvanized a lot of parents to become very concerned. The trust that was there through, and even when my own children were in public schools, in the 2000 to late 90s through the 2010s, I was wary, but I not overly concerned about what they may be being taught. Today, I think another factor that's large, and I've got family members now who won't send their kids to public school. That's the distrust of the public schools agenda and what the school boards are allowing to be taught and presented in the classroom. And I think and I don't know this, when we talk about low census and closing some schools down, we talk about the birth rate declining.
right.
But how big of an impact is people going into homeschooling a factor in less students in the district? I don't know, but I think it's significantly greater than it was even 5 years ago.
definitely 5
Yeah.
years ago, definitely
Well, and
significantly
it's
greater.
become so much more acceptable to do that, and they've got so many more. You can do hybrid homeschooling. You can have your child go to certain classes, and then at the
It
school
used
district.
to be like
and-
10, 12 years ago, you didn't have a lot of choice. You had maybe 2 or 3 homeschool, well, there's only 2 or 3, I should say, private schools in town, number one. You did have a homeschool base, number 2, because my grandson went homeschool. And that was it until COVID hit. And then the national trend filtered down to us. And we did have new schools opening up that would not put masks on kids, and new schools opening up that would give them a different type of education other than woke education. So, yeah.
Yeah, and co-ops, I think,
Right,
made a big
co-ops.
difference, so you weren't doing that. Okay, so we looked at this, that's kind of big. Okay, Charlie, what influence does a letter to the editor have on you? Because you see a lot of letters to the editors, and does it seem to you like they are one direction? Do you read them at all, or do you care what you see in there?
To me, and I've been encouraged, in many occasions to write letters to the editor. You know, I think the print media is becoming viewed by fewer and fewer people. Maybe the last of the baby boomers are still reading some newspapers. I guess I really can't speak with knowledge about how important or valuable letters to the editor are.
But does
I
it
think
impact you at all?
It does not impact me.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. How about, Beau, what do you think? Are they impactful? Are they not impactful? Does it matter if the editor of the paper says, yep, we want these three? Is that an influence very much, or?
To be honest, I look more to letters of the editor than the actual paper itself. I like to see, because I think they do a good job at getting both sides. Kind of one day you'll get this one, or the other day you'll get this one. I think they do a good job at that. And I actually look, I do it online. I don't get the paper, right? I read the e-edition, and I just skip all the way to the letters, and that's I look forward to it. I'm not gonna lie. That's something that not, and a lot of it is because I have I have clients and stuff that want these letters out or whatever. But in terms of just understanding what the people are saying, because that's raw, right? That's and you have to be honest, and you'll get both sides of the raw, and then you decide what you want to take from that. But I tell you right now, I look more at the letters than the actual paper, 100%.
Yeah, he also watches Desperate Wives of New Jersey, I'm sure.
I don't have TV.
So what about the you
Okay.
said it's? Does that phase you? Because you said it, you can go ahead and say anything you want to say, and you don't have to put your name to it.
Say that again.
The you said it's rather than the
Oh.
letters to the editor. Letters to the editor, you have to sign, you have to give your address, the whole thing. And the you said it's, you can put anything in there, and you don't have to stand behind it at all.
Yeah, I don't. I can't even tell you the last time I looked at that column. I like the letters because you get the name, you get the title, you get, and it kind of
see who's-
it keeps them accountable a little bit of what they say. So I don't look at that one.
Okay, that's good. I think it's very good myself.
So we know you don't look, you read them, but what do you think the impact is on voters?
I think voters. I think it's a very active way still. I do, and there's a lot of people, because we see it on social media on both sides, and that's one thing I do pride myself with. I do constantly look at both. Is the screenshots of it. Like it's not just say, hey, it's published. No, like people take pride in what they publish, and their friends, or they share it, they put it on Facebook, they get it. You see it. I've seen a lot this election. So I think letters to the editor still has an impact, absolutely.
Okay, so what kind of an impact now do you think social media has on all of this? Because social media has just exploded in the last 10 years. Basically, your Facebooks, which most people say, well, that's old hat, that's for old people. But you've got TikTok, you've got Instagram, you've got WhatsApp, so many others, that all of these ads are coming on and all of these people are commenting on. What kind of an impact do you think that has?
So I do use social media.
So do I. So
Yeah. There's no stigma. I don't know what, but I think, for example, I was on Instagram. I use Instagram more than anything, but
That's because he's younger.
yeah.
He only has an attention span of a gnat.
Us old devils just have to stick with Facebook.
but I use Facebook politically more than anything. But on Instagram, I was scrolling yesterday and I saw some ads for candidates, and I look at them because I'm in that field, right? But if I was to treat that ad like any other ad that I see on Instagram, yes. So I don't think it's effective. I really, people can say, oh, it targets the younger voter, and I tell you right now, if I can only speak for myself, if I treat an ad, the political ad, like any other ad, like I would, no, I don't even bat an eye. It's in the way of what I'm trying to do.
Trying to get to where you're going.
Yes.
Yep.
And we know you said, I rarely am on social media, and so that doesn't impact you at all. Is that correct? Or do you
Not much, not much. When we talk about media, my news sources are alternative and electronic, and I think it may be a little bit off topic, but the value of people being able to discern and vote with their fingers for where they get their information is profound. I see our current media that we used to trust, and that's the way it is with Walter Cronkite.
Right.
Right.
That is gone.
That's gone.
That is gone and continues to diminish. And I find great hope in the ability that we all have in being able to use our own discernment and say, you know what, this source is more reliable than this or another.
That's
We have a lot
interesting.
more access to that kind of stuff now than we did. Used to be that you just saw what you saw on TV, heard what you heard on radio, and those seem to be one of those things that are kind of off to the side now, and it's all computerized.
Well, see, Charlie's enough younger than me that he probably doesn't remember when we had one TV station in Grand Junction, KREX, and it was named after the guy that started it, Rex Howell. And we got whatever Rex Howell wanted to watch because it was, you could see they were different shows that I thought, oh, that's on NBC, and that one's on 8, because when we went to Denver, they had 4 channels.
We got KOA where I came from.
Yeah,
That-
and I'm like, oh, well, look at what you guys get to watch. But we had 1 channel, and then it went off at midnight.
Yeah,
You're done.
the screen
Yes.
came on,
Yeah.
and you waited. It came back on at 6 or 7.
Yeah.
you had the national anthem and it was done.
That was exactly right. So you had the Daily Sentinel and you had KREX, and that was your source of all news
Yeah.
here and forevermore. Whatever he wanted. And he was a ham radio operator too. Very nice man. But now you have so many different sources, so that's got to be hard as a political consultant to say, where do I spend my political
What's the
capital?
most
How do I get people to look at
impact?
things?
And I like to look at it as there's more avenues to do it, right? Like there's, you can say Facebook's for the older crowd. That's an avenue to get the older vote. You could say Instagram is more towards the younger. That's an avenue. Everything leads to a different group of voters. And I like to look at it as, okay, which one do we want to invest in more than the other and this or that? And it really does depend on the environment, the area where you're at. And Facebook absolutely is important here. And that's one thing because when I worked in Denver and they were always like, oh, like we got to get on Instagram, TikTok. And I'm just like, you're not going to get much here. Facebook, by far, is the most important social media here. And I like it. It got me back into Facebook, I'll tell you that. But I like to look at it as there's different voters, and we're just reaching them all in a different way.
Okay. Now I know you're looking at alternative media sources. So, what would be a media source? Do you use YouTube? What do you use for alternative? Radio.
Very little.
Smoke
I
signals,
listen
smoke
to
signals.
a lot. Well, Epic Times is one of my
Oh, okay.
one of my go-tos, and I get feeds from them daily. The Patriot Post is another and they're more on a national scale. But then a lot of podcasts. A lot
Okay.
of I've got
Oh,
probably
that's an interesting.
Yeah.
15 different favorites that I'll just bounce back and forth and listen to them.
Yeah, that's neat. That is interesting.
Interesting. Now, see, I get a lot of my news off of Telegram. So I go to Telegram to get whatever I want for national and world news.
Yes.
And Epic Times, of course.
So what about another one would be endorsements by different people. We've seen endorsements by Tim Foster and by Janie Van Winkle going for one candidate. We've seen that our mayor, Cody Kennedy, endorsed the current school board. How much impact do you think that an endorsement by somebody has on your thinking?
I think endorsements are very valuable, impactful. Should not cause us to replace our own discernment. But when we see people that we do have confidence in, and have faith in, and that are influencers within the community that are
Yes.
respected. I think that certainly adds to the political capital of the candidate.
It is political, isn't it? Makes it more so.
Yes.
Yes. And Beau?
No, I 10,000% agree. It makes it easier for, and this is the bitter truth, right? When you think of elections, and you will hope that voters are educated, but most times they're not, and we see that in a lot of instances. But if someone they trust, someone who's been in the community, someone who they voted for already, is saying that John Smith is the guy, then it of course, but it also can create some negative, right? You know, people can think that an endorsement is going to help, but it might hurt them because a lot of people don't like a certain person. Like there's two sides of the coin, but rather it be good or bad, I think it does have a big influence.
Okay, because I'm going through all the different ways you can get to a candidate, get to know them. We're going to beat them all, and then then I'm going to ask you at the end what was most influential to you. So forums, attendance, are they valuable?
Do
Do you
get
see very
information
many?
from them?
Either one of you, have you been to a forum, Charlie, that you've this election cycle?
I have not been
Okay.
to forums throughout
And-
the cycle.
And why is that?
In part, time, and you know, it is a time commitment.
Yes,
and
it is.
forums,
It is.
forums occur at a given or set time. I'm more inclined to, on my own schedule, go avail myself of whatever information that it is I desire.
Okay. What do you think about forums?
Yeah, I've been to 2 of them, maybe 3. They kind of mesh after a while. Been to yours.
Oh, bless you.
And I think there's some, to a certain point, it gets redundant, right? It gets, and if you're in my field, you kind of get bored with what candidates say over and over again. But it is an excellent time to hear how they speak. It's an excellent time to see how they interact in public. They're first and foremost public speakers, and if they are having a hard time, like just kind of showing their passion or showing their message, then to some that might depict how they vote. But I think it's a good solid way to get, and if you think of it like that, right, you go into it and say, hey, you know what, I'm open, I'm gonna listen to what they say, and it's not, I already chose a side. Like forums can be beneficial, and I like it because you get to see the candidate out doing their thing. But maybe I think it's just another source for candidates to get the information out. I don't know if it's needed. I don't know if it's like
Effective.
absolutely, like maybe it is, but 9 times out of 10 people make a decision already before the candidate even speaks. So
I have to interject just a little bit here. I like to go to forums and things like that because I watch body language, and body language tells me everything I need to know about a person. And if you pay attention to that, you'll know who's telling the truth, who's not, who feels confident in what they're saying and who is not. So to me, it's very important to see these people out in the public like that.
To your point, one of the forums, the CD3 candidates this last go around spoke at Stand for the Constitution. And you're right, there was certain behaviors separate from the dialogue
Right.
that were either off-putting or comforting to me in the various candidates. And one of them, bless his heart, could not speak. And it's, I think there is some vetting value in that. I would agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
And can they think on their feet?
true.
My problem with a lot of forums or discussion things is how they ask the questions. Do they allow people to stand up afterward and say, okay, now you've answered these questions that were set, but will you take audience questions and just let them stand up, not go, oh, okay, we'll look through these and see which questions we want to ask as a presenter. Then I'm like, why are you doing that? Of course, you could be there forever too. That would be
You could definitely be there forever.
Yeah.
We've tried that before too.
So, what about? And this is Beau's favorite. These are the two I struggle with the most: door knocking and phone calls. I want to ask you, if you get a candidate phone call, what do you think?
Well, typically they're fundraising phone calls, but I welcome them. I don't polls. I won't take them. Candidate phone calls. I will take them. I welcome them. I don't know that I have an expectation of the needle being nudged one way or the other during the course of those, but I would accept them and find them interesting.
Okay. Just the opposite of me.
Yeah.
No.
I've got it blinking up there, and you might as well just forget it. Nobody
Well, that
listens to
said, often I do not answer my phone if I don't recognize the number.
Yeah,
Because if it's something I need, they'll leave a message.
exactly. Yes, and that's what they do now. They leave the message, and it's whether or not you listen to the message or not. Yes. Beau loves it. He thinks it's the best thing ever. Since sliced bread, he says, yes, call.
Well, I think the grassroots effort of a campaign is absolutely the most important. And so how we think of it is when you can, well, one, it's tangible. It's something like if the candidate knocks on your door, like you're not going to get that anywhere else. This is your time to grill. This is your time to ask. Or even if you get a supporter, this is the time to address. This is to you don't get more personal than that.
But it is the personal candidate, not the person who is helping the candidate.
Yeah, but I also think there's merit to having a supporter knock and have a conversation. I've seen it yesterday. We were knocking, going around, and I was with one of the volunteers, and every single one that she went to, she convinced. It was sold. It was just the fact that you have a conversation about the topic with another human being does a whole lot more, I think. And the phone calls is just another way of that. And the voicemail or the message left is, so how we like to look at it is in a campaign world, I mentioned this before at another meeting, but is how many times you can touch a voter, right? And when I believe in let's say a county race like this one, if we can touch a voter 4 times, the chances of them voting for your candidate is higher.
Repetition.
Yes, and that could be a door knock, that could be a text, that could be a call, that could be a mailer. That's 4 of the same person getting that information. And it's not so much saying vote, vote, vote. It's like, dang, I'm seeing this over and over again. I have to look into it. That's where we're kind of doing that is, so it could be a lot, but there's reasons to it. When I did the campaign in Michigan, I'll say that, not for who or what, but we touched the voter 8 times, and I think that was borderline abusive, but 8 times was the goal that we hit, and it worked, absolutely worked. So
Interesting.
Yes, and finally, the only other way, and you guys can come up with different ways that you're not, I don't want to say accosted, but like signs. I know that when I was in political science, signs were important, and the reason they were important is, again, low voter turnout, and they voted on name recognition. So if I saw that person's sign, I said, oh yeah, I remember, and candidate position on a ballot, because they tended to vote for the first candidate, especially if it was nonpartisan, that they would say, okay, that name's for, I don't know why, but that was what we were told that people did. So what do you think about all the signs? Does that impact you at all?
Nominally, but I think another thing that signs do is along the lines of endorsement. You see who's got the signs in front of whose businesses or properties, that it can carry a little more power if it's a business or a residence that you know and respect.
Right. I hadn't thought about that, Daniel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So overall in this, we've got a lot of money going on. We have all sorts of different ways to reach a person. What do you use? What of all those things or something different, how do you determine who you're voting for? Or how have you determined who you're voting
My
for?
perception of the candidate's alignment with my values, 100%.
And how do you find that out? What do you use to find that out? Because that's important for if I know somebody aligns, but how do I know who they are and that they do align? How did you find that out?
Yeah, I
What do you
think in many cases where it's possible, especially locally, getting to know the candidates personally. I think there's great value with that, to sit down and have coffee with them, or even at a forum. The forum is part of the information that you gain, but it's the talk in the hallway too, before or
Right.
after.
Before and after.
That gives you another opportunity to deepen your knowledge of and vet the candidate to make sure that you continue to approve. I think, a lot of times there's a danger if someone wears the label of the party you approve of or the group you approve of, sometimes you're less discerning because you say, well, I just expect and trust that person. And sometimes those are the worst because they pretend to be in alignment and really aren't.
Right.
And so, I don't know if I answered that well, but
Well, it just said that's how you do it, is you want to get to know the candidate personally, and
Yeah.
we'll seek out a way to do that.
if possible, and if
possible.
not, if it's beyond my scope of being able to know them personally, I rely a lot on the alternative news sources out there that I trust.
So that brought in the last one that I hadn't thought of just till now, because No Kings and the Indivisible are both sponsoring meet and greets for the candidates, or bring your ballots and vote for these two. So meet and greets, what do you think, Beau? And they tend to be a little bit more expensive. I thought it was interesting with the Indivisible meeting at the library, because I'm wondering if they think it's like a subliminal thing. Libraries are part of education, so since we're meeting at the library, that's a good source. Or if it's just that they're cheap and it's a place you can get the community room for free.
Centralized location.
Yeah, I think there's both. When you think of when I think of a library, I think public. So maybe that's one. Maybe it's just it's an easier route to get it reserved or whatever. But a meet and greet is. I think that's pretty effective. That's something that, and what's good is that incumbent candidates have a constant flow of meet and greets. But to me, and I want us and everyone who's listening to just kind of look at it. If an organization is sponsoring or doing this, or the organization wants their views to be heard, right? They want to have a candidate that reflects their views, or else it would be a candidate meet and greet, but it's not, right? So I want people to just really look at that. Look at who is sponsoring the event, who's the giant. I mean, the organization has its name giant across the flyer, and who are the candidates that they're representing. So I think, yeah, it's effective. Meet and greet, that's an opportunity for a voter to go, and it's smart. It's during the election, they're gonna push, hey, get your ballots. Like it's a smart thing to do. I think it'll be effective on their end.
Anything else you guys want to bring in that we haven't? Because she's going, it's been a long time.
I just looked at it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Anything else, Ruth, you think we need to bring up? Or
No, I can't think of anything in particular. I just keep thinking of all of the money that's being thrown into this, and I keep thinking follow the money, because those sources that are bringing money into here have a definite influence. And what is that influence, and how how much is it actually counting in the race?
And a
That's-
definite agenda.
Yes.
And I
Exactly.
think that's something that I would say 1 out of 100 people might do. And that's sad, you know, that
It
you
is.
don't look at this and say how much can they change what's going on in a community.
And what say do they actually have? Just out of curiosity, if we go through all of this and only one vote changes, how much say is that going to make in the actual school board direction? So, you know, there's just things like that that make me question all of this, actually.
Yeah, what's the expectation?
Right.
In exchange for our investment in you, what is the expectation?
Exactly.
To your point, who's sponsoring this? Where's the money coming from? And when we talk about politics, say that's an aspirational to keep politics out of the school board election. Any policy that affects a group, an elected official, it is by definition political.
Political.
It is politics. If you set a policy, if you set a course, you're
It's not Republican or Democrat. It's
no, but it is
still
political.
politics.
And it's going to represent values. It's going to be, these are the things that I value.
And we'll support.
And it a shout out to Dr. Golub, who was my political science teacher at CMU. I use this phrase to this day. And when you look at, I'll say it here, I promise, but when you look at a group doing this, right, and you question loyalty, right? Like I said before, a group has policy, a group has their beliefs, and they're spending a lot of money on you. What do you owe? What's the loyalty, right? And politics, which makes it political, we established that, and the reason, the defining thing is what politics is at its core. Who gets what and when? I promise you, that is the most simplest definition that you can get for the meaning of politics. Who gets what and when? The candidate gets the money from this thing. Okay, what does that group get out of that? It's only who gets what and when. That's really what it is. And if you just follow that trend, follow it, like it does make you question. All I want, if I could give advice to anyone, is when you get this one, or even if you get a negative one about a candidate, just take pride in the fact that you want to know more and just fact check. Look it up. There's no such thing as saying they spend this much and then when you actually look, they haven't. Like just do the homework. That's fun for me. Like I love to prove people wrong, and that's what drives me. And all I ask for voters on both sides, I don't care what side you're on, just fact check. Just look. That's all we can do. And you know my stance, you know my party, and I'm very clear on that. But at the end of the day, how I vote is between me and that paper, and then this is how I decide. So.
Exactly right.
Okay. You've been watching Mesa County Compass. This is the facts as we know them, the truth as we see it. You decide. Thank you, Beau. Thank you,
Thank you
Charlie.
both very
we
much
really
for
appreciate
joining
you
us.
joining us.
It was my pleasure.